Title: The Gas Station Disappearance the Police Still Can't Explain. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins: the gas station disappearance the police still can't explain. National media would later summarize this case with one single sentence that felt almost too symbolic to be real: Jason didn't disappear into darkness. The darkness found him in broad daylight. And that was what terrified people the most about this case. Because for days before his body was found, nothing felt out of pattern, nothing signaled crisis, nothing suggested danger. Jason looked like every other normal, average, stable young adult building his life in Ohio. No drugs. No chaos. No criminal history. No mental health spiral. No debt. No late-night double life. No bizarre secret friends. Nothing that fit the normal pattern of a homicide victim. He was a normal 26-year-old construction worker from Lucas County whose biggest life goal for 2025 was simply to qualify for foreman certification and move into project oversight level pay by summer. But on March 16, 2025, just after 5:12 p.m., a passing driver on a rural 2-lane highway 14 miles outside Toledo called 911 and reported what they initially thought was a medical emergency or a fainted hiker. It wasn't. That call, that location, that single discovery, is what turned this case into national news before police even had a name. The spot where he was found was a dead cell shadow zone on an access road that barely showed up on GPS. Locals described that entire stretch as the portion of Ohio where, if something goes wrong, nobody hears you. In fact, the exact phrase that first spawned viral commentary posts was, "The place he died was a place where nobody ever should have been alone." When deputies arrived, they already immediately flagged a major red contradiction. There was no broken vehicle. No skid marks. No collision debris. No motorcycle. No ATV. No bicycle. There was no vehicle belonging to Jason at all. Yet he wasn't hit by a car. And he hadn't just collapsed from natural causes. The scene didn't tell a story of an accident. The scene told a story of placement. This was the detail that instantly created national-level fear: someone had placed him there. That single detail alone shifted this case instantly into suspicious death classification before the coroner even touched the body. Now, here was the part that made the first 72 hours chaos on social media: Jason had no immediate threat vectors. His phone history was clean. No stalker vibes. No sudden relationship explosion. No dispute record with coworkers. No reported conflict with neighbors or supervisors. He was not involved in anything risky. He was not involved in anything dangerous. He was simply a normal young man who clocked in at 6 o'clock every morning, worked framing, drywall prepping, and concrete leveling at a mid-size construction contractor in Toledo. He got paid every Friday. Ate the same breakfast burrito from the gas station near the job site every morning. Played Xbox with his cousin every Saturday. Called his mom every Wednesday night at 9:15 p.m. exactly. And according to every single person who knew him, there was absolutely no reason to ever expect something like this to happen. Which is why police nearly misread this case at the beginning. Because the first 24 hours, there were no signs of struggle on scene, no torn clothing fibers, no obvious weapon indicators, no frantic defensive scene, nothing visually dramatic that indicated violent attack. This was clean. Eerily clean. Too clean. And that was the part that bothered the responding officers, quietly, but they didn't yet know how to articulate it. His wallet was still on him. His ID still on him. Nothing stolen. This did not fit a robbery-homicide. This did not fit a crime of passion. This did not fit a gang conflict. This did not fit retaliation. This did not fit jealous lover narrative. It matched nothing. And because it matched nothing, this is the exact moment national media escalated the narrative. Commentators started using the phrase, the case that shattered risk logic. Because Jason represented people who should never statistically end up in homicide datasets. He was the boring safe category. Which is why national networks didn't bury this story. They pushed it to prime time. It hit the same region of fear that makes true crime viral. The randomness, the ordinary victim. Investigators reviewed the final hours of his routine on the day he was last seen alive. Jason left work on time. He texted his mom at 4:06 p.m. that he was going straight home. He stopped at a convenience store just before 4:37 p.m. He bought a bottle of blue sports drink and 2 energy bars. The security camera showed him laughing casually with the cashier. Nothing abnormal in his body language. Nothing anxious. Nothing paranoid. This is the moment viewers will cling to emotionally later. He didn't sense danger. Whatever happened next, happened after this moment. The coroner needed more than a day to finalize preliminary classification. Toxicology was clean. That meant the homicide wasn't about poisoning, intentional ingestion, alcohol incident, overdose misread as violence. Which left only one thing. Someone else did this to Jason. And for the first time since the discovery, police openly said, they were now officially treating this as a homicide. That statement is what sent fear spiraling across the country. Because the random highway. The random location. The normal victim. The absence of chaos. The absence of a fight. The absence of motive. This was the kind of homicide Americans secretly fear the most. Not the chaotic, messy, dramatic ones. But the ones that look almost surgically invisible. The investigation pivoted so violently in the second week that even detectives later admitted this chapter of the case felt like the kind of horror that doesn't creep, it attacks. Because once Jason's workplace was pulled deeper into the inquiry, everything that felt random suddenly started turning into a pattern no one expected. And every investigator began quietly asking the same question: how many clues were hiding in plain sight before the body was even found? When homicide detectives went to the construction site to conduct full formal interviews, they assumed it would be procedural routine. Document location. Establish timelines. Confirm he left at normal shift end. Confirm no one saw anything unusual. Check standard workplace conflict probability. Then move on. But instead, they walked right into the center of the first real fracture. Every single coworker seemed genuinely shaken when detectives arrived to interview them. Except one. This man, we will call him Mark, was the only person who didn't express visible shock, panic, grief, fear or even disbelief. The moment Jason's name was spoken, witnesses separately stated that Mark simply froze, held this strange half-smile tension, then looked away like he needed to recalc his expression before he spoke again. People notice micro-expressions like that in real life only when something is wrong. Detectives later said this moment was the exact place where the horror entered the case. Every other coworker commented immediately about how Jason was the least possible guy something like this could happen to. Mark didn't say that. He instead tried to correct the detective's wording. Twice. He tried to generalize tragedy. He tried to universalize randomness. This is the moment investigators flagged him silently as needs deeper review. Not a suspect yet. But not normal. Then more emerged. Multiple workers said Mark had a weird resentment toward Jason recently, because Jason was being reviewed for advancement. Jason was scheduled to apply for foreman certification late summer. Mark had failed that advancement track twice. And once this workplace angle was opened, it was like dominoes began falling faster than detectives could even organize them. Mark had been assigned the same morning duty rotation that day. Mark clocked out the same time window. Mark had no verified alibi in the time gap before Jason's body discovery. Mark suddenly forgot parts of the afternoon sequence during his first interview. Detectives now had their first real thread. And this chapter became the part where horror shifted from atmospheric fear of random death, to the horror that the killer was standing next to the victim every single day. The killer wasn't a ghost. The killer wasn't a shadow. The killer wasn't a stranger. It was someone who ate lunch less than 12 feet away from him at the job site. When detectives brought Mark back for second-round interview, his demeanor changed again. Now he was anxious. Sweat visible. He kept changing hand position. His breathing pace was sharp. He asked for a break twice. One detective later described him as looking like someone who suddenly realized a timeline trap was about to snap shut around him. Then investigators dropped the detail that cornered him psychologically. Jason had texted a coworker the day before he died that Mark had been acting off. That single thing made Mark physically tense in the room. Like he didn't expect the dead to speak back through digital record. Later that night detectives got a warrant for Mark's vehicle and apartment. And this is the part that ended coincidence status forever. Inside Mark's glove compartment, they found a foldable map with rural county roads marked with pen strokes. One of those circled zones on the map was less than 1.3 miles from where Jason was found. Not exactly the drop site, but horrifyingly close. From this moment forward, investigators no longer considered this random. They considered this staging. Mark now became the central focus of case structure. And the horror of this chapter is rooted in the realization that Jason probably did not know until the last moments that he was in danger at all. The police were preparing to take Mark into full custody the next day. They didn't get the chance. Before the arrest warrant was physically executed, Mark died in a high-speed single-vehicle collision on a rural exit ramp outside Toledo at 2:19 a.m. Witnesses described it as a violent impact, but the autopsy later confirmed no third-party involvement. No second car. No forced impact. It was considered self-inflicted. And this is the part where Chapter 2 horror strikes hardest. Jason's killer died before police could ask a single direct question. Before motive could be voiced. Before details could be extracted. Before remorse could be recorded. All the answers died with him in the cabin of his destroyed Jeep. This is the horror of the real world. Sometimes justice arrives, but it arrives in silence.